I can.
No
No
worries.
worries.
Great you could join. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks.
So let me double check if the live stream started successfully. And I don't think we have to wait longer because really, I don't think that Georgia, she did not confirm if she's gonna show up, right?
Not from my end.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. She can always catch up with the recording.
Mhm.
Okay, the live stream is started. So yeah, I'll share some background, especially for people that are here at the marketing meeting for the first time, and also for people watching recording later. So basically, in 2024, we want to streamline work on the Async API marketing in a bit more organized way. We have this framework of working groups now in Async API initiative, which enables us to have a reason to have regular meetings and push things forward with a task board, etc. I think it's organized work much better. And also the good thing is that we have a budget to hire someone to do marketing. And that's the goal of today's meeting. So to quickly catch up with the idea for hiring someone, and also try to find a good description of the new working group, and if we actually have to decide really what should be the main goal, or it can be a bit shady at the beginning. So yeah, that's it if it comes to the intro. So we have on the call Christoph, who is from Bamba Sage, and Tuli and Jan and me. And I'm super happy that we have Christoph because we finally have someone from the other side of the how do you call it, a mirror or maybe screen or whatever. So basically, whenever I and Tuli and basically whoever works regularly every day on Async API, whenever we think about marketing, we were always thinking about, yeah, sharing what's happening in the initiative, like basically the news. But I hope that you, Christoph, you can you have probably different perspective, like from marketing from the perspective also of the sponsor, like how we can um, uh, as with our marketing make Async API much more visible outside. So it's also very good for the sponsors that actually sponsor the work on the marketing as well. So that's my additional comment. And now voice to you folks. So first of all, would you like to first say something, like Christoph, especially you, because you're here for the first time?
So yeah, maybe just a few words because I've only started looking into today's topic. I'm super happy to join here. I want to, as much as possible, contribute in thinking about the different things that uh, would be great for Async API in terms of marketing, whether it's hiring somebody or having ideas of indeed interactions between sponsors at large and well, the people here present in the call, and of course the rest of the community. Um, yeah, again, I'm just discovering now, so I don't necessarily have right now something I can contribute with, but I'm gonna happy to do so in a moment as soon as it's relevant.
Perfect. The most important, you're here and you're listening. So, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna have feedback. So the main topic, I think, and Tuli, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the most important thing we want to cover today is like how we kick off hiring, how we actually get someone whose job will be full-time focus on the marketing, right? Yeah. And so my question first for you already would be, Christoph, like, so we have this job posting ready that Tuli worked on. It really nicely highlights more or less what we want to achieve. And like on the last meeting, we discussed that like the best if we get someone who already is in the community and knows the community. But after posting the job, posting suggestion, nobody really showed up in the discussion to say like, hey, I'd love to do the marketing. Now the question is, maybe we're like maybe basically $24,000 is not enough for a junior community marketing person to pick up the job, or like what's
So it's never an easy question, the amount of money. Maybe just before talking about the money, I think it's interesting to also consider whether it should be somebody who's already active in the async API community, or if we should look for somebody external. Reason is, usually when you hire somebody that has an extensive tech background and who can also do marketing, very often nowadays it means somebody who's in positions of developer advocate, I would say. And what I've seen so far of people doing that job is that there are things that they're extremely good at, and things they just don't want to do. It's not that they're good or not good at it, but they just don't want to do it. And it feels like, at least from my experience, there's a lot of those things as a marketing manager or whatever title you want to put on that are not so interesting for developer advocates. So therefore, I'm thinking it could be complicated. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it could be complicated to actually find somebody who is in the async API community and who's able to then also do the marketing manager job. Such people would probably essentially be working for sponsors or companies that extensively use async APIs. So therefore, you probably will have difficulties hiring them because they're already working. So that's the first consideration. Potentially I would indeed try to figure out if somebody external, even if they should be interested in tech communities, in open source tech communities, probably it's interesting to open more. On the amount of money that this person could be paid, well, it very often depends where they live, because obviously, depending on the country, it's just not the same salary. If you want to hire somebody who's working in the US, well, that's probably not enough. That's correct. I don't know about, wages in many other countries in the world. I know that in France, this is below the base salary, I believe. The base gross salary, as per French law. So here you would have automatically a limitation. In any case, it of course depends on seniority. It also feels, looking at the job description, that you want somebody with mid-seniority at least. I wouldn't expect somebody junior to be autonomous enough to do everything that should be done. You want somebody who has enough seniority to be autonomous, to be creative, to be to propose new possibilities on a day-to-day basis, and of course to be able to manage themselves. They should be proactive and following up on things and so on. It requires skills in social media, which is probably the basics, but definitely also in talking and building relationships with other parties, again, whether sponsors or I don't know if there is any sort of suppliers, but conference organizers, dealing with conferences is probably going to be a good chunk of the job. So yeah, this is a bit the elements that I would bring in. I'm not actually bringing in his solutions, but I'm hoping that those considerations can help thinking forward about that. So yeah, country is important. Seniority is a key consideration, and external versus internal to the community is something that we should take into account too.
Tuli, anything?
Yeah, it actually makes sense what Christoph is saying. Like, because what I did or what did we research, right, is that we're looking for someone junior because I'm there, I'll be able to help here and there. And also for me to say that a community marketing specialist, I didn't want like to focus more on like on marketing, because there's another aspect of marketing, like with the community, especially like what you're saying. You need we have ambassadors, for instance, we have the bounty program, we have different initiatives that need like help with marketing. So if we say that you're only focusing on marketing, like you said, not a lot of people want to do like collaborate with other initiatives that are part of the community. So that's why we went with the community marketing specialist. So yeah, and I do understand what you're saying, that for someone junior, maybe like it will be okay. For my case, when I started the community manager, I didn't know anything. Like it took, yes, I had other skills, but yeah, it took time. So I think we can like take what do you call it? We take a leap of faith or something. We like have faith to hire junior. I mean, if I can do it, I mean, somebody else can prove it, right? So I mean, we can look like for other skills like communication skills, then they can build up on the rest. I mean, not everybody, we all start from scratch. That's my thinking. And yeah, in terms of salary, it depends. I understand now with the whole global whatever, maybe it is less. But so far the thing is we haven't have anyone come forward and say, hey, I'm interested. So I don't know. Really, honestly, I really don't know. Yeah. I'm torn in between, yeah.
You're right. Having somebody junior or mid-senior or senior is just not enough. It's if I mention this, it's probably more also because I come directly from a business that needs, to be where you need to be very quickly up to speed and so on. And yes, there are junior people who would be much better than any senior person just because they're motivated, eager to learn, and they'll do things amazingly fast. So you're right. It's, it shouldn't be that specific. More people can do that. So yes, it's just, I would say there is less chances that we find the right person if they haven't done that before. It's not impossible, it's more risky. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so on the juniority, let's call it this way. When we set the budget, and yeah, I knew that US and probably some other countries, nobody will be interested with this level of the budget. But what I was thinking, especially what Tuli said, that like when Tuli started, Tuli had no experience, but I was able to like mentor. She had space to learn, and in open source community, it's acceptable. That's you have a lot of time, and especially if you're motivated, and you're like into the open source really, then maybe it's wishful thinking, but I think that if people get a chance, then like Tuli got, then they can grow. And I was thinking that we might replicate the same success with marketing because, like, first of all, the person will not be alone. I'm there, Tuli's there, and also the working group. I hoped that like this person, the person that we hire is basically like, for me, the only big requirement really from my side is to make sure that the person loves open source and has communication skills that allow to really openly speak and honestly say, hey, I don't know, I need help. Like this basic stuff that are not so basic after all for all the people. So for me, that's enough, because then I know that this person, even one of the requirements I think we have to run the working group. At the beginning, this person doesn't even have to run the working group. One of us can do it. And then we just set a goal for the person, like next 6 months, your goal is to take over, to coordinate forward everything and learn from us, get feedback. We regularly meet, we have board. And the bigger group we have, the more people you have to learn from. Sometimes you, Christoph, you won't be available, but maybe Georgia from Gravity, she'll have some, like the person will do some task where Georgia will share her marketing experience. So, you know, like what I'm trying to say, because sometimes I have problems with expressing myself, but yeah, that's what, for example, I have in my head whenever I think about this role of community marketing specialist, that it can be someone really junior, which enables us to wider range of people with the salary that we have. And also I always think that it's the benefit of junior is that this person is not yet having some fixed experience that is blocking innovation, you know? Like, for example, I know I'm with my seniority, I'm pretty sure that I'm affected by my seniority, and many decisions that I make is because, like, yeah, I had it in the past, we shouldn't do it. But is it good? Always? I don't think so. Sometimes I don't think it's good. So yeah, just rambling.
It makes perfect sense. You're right. Actually, it makes me think of somebody I've worked with. She's now a lot more experienced, and she probably wouldn't, be ready for the salary that we're talking about here. But I was wondering, maybe it's interesting to have a chat with her to better understand how we could find somebody like she was when she started. So she's been the head of marketing for the Symfony community in the PHP world. And I believe it's been her first job. So she started probably just like what you described, where her mentor there was Fabien Potentier, the creator of Symfony. So maybe, yeah, talking to her could help us figure out, what kind of person exactly we should be looking for, and open device options.
Sounds like a good plan.
Let me reach out to her and see if it should be up to a small discussion, just completely informal.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there is support. It's not like we are expecting someone to know like everything. I mean, there is support. There is me. There is Lucas. I mean, there is the working group, and it's just a starting point. We need someone like to have the skills, like to have the motivation. Then the rest you can build on top. So yeah, that's what. Yeah.
And the best if it's like with anything really, with any hiring these times, like the best if it's someone who's basically recommended from somewhere. Maybe even the person that you referred to, Christoph, knows someone in their community, because in the end, I think we know, like, especially being every day in the community, it's hard. Like with Tuli, it was pretty clear for me that we have a candidate that can be picked up. With marketing, it's much more difficult. So I think it's pretty obvious for us that we have to open outside. but still being locked to someone who already is in open source, that would be,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, my minimal requirement. That
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because we need someone who understands open source communities and how they work. So definitely we do need someone. Either if we can't find someone from the community who knows async API, the next requirement will be someone who knows open source communities.
Yeah.
Jan, do you like to add something? Am I still audible?
Yeah, you are, but maybe Jan
Yes,
is
you
not.
are.
Okay.
No worries.
So just so you know, I've sent a message right now to that contact of mine. Hopefully you'll hear back soon.
Okay, then like, okay, so let's try to wrap up and see what's next. Because like we're not in super rush. We don't have to post the job posting tomorrow. But I think do we agree that that I think we all or maybe not. Do we all agree that we should not limit ourselves to async API community only? That's, I think, clear for us.
Yes.
Do we agree that we still should have this bare minimum that somebody should already be active in open source? Do we need this
Definitely.
requirement? Yeah.
I think we do.
Any open
I
source.
mean, any open source, it doesn't matter. But that understanding of how open source communities work is very important. I mean, from my own side. Or else we can do it like this, right? We can prioritize async API community members. Then secondly, we prioritize if we don't find an async API community member who's interested, then we branch out to like other open source community, a person who knows open source communities. If push comes to shove, we still don't find anybody who falls in these two categories, then we can come back to the drawing board and say, it's not working. What do we do?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I would have one recommendation, which would be at this point, and even though I hate, honestly, personally, seeing a job description without a salary on it, I would suggest not to mention it, just to be very clear on the fact that we're looking for somebody junior, and ask people what are their salary expectations. Because with this, I'm hoping that first off, there is more applications, and then we can probably get more of an idea of what people would expect depending on the countries they live in as a salary for that job. What do you think?
It will be definitely hard to hide it in open source.
Yes, it's not about hiding it. It's about not making it
like
prominent
the main message. Yeah, okay.
Yes, and about not hiding anything, by the way, we can also then be clear that this is what's budgeted, but we are looking into exactly, figuring out, does that make sense? I mean, it's only me, talking today. So if you disagree, please, tell me, and that's totally fine. But it would be too bad that maybe just for $3,000 difference, people don't apply, and that we realize we would have hired the right person for that salary,
Yeah.
Okay, another thing. Is it like contracted work, like how in my case? Then I was thinking about it. Then if we say like it's a 1 year contract, right? Then we can like negotiate like, okay, let's say this is the starting point. Then after a year, we revise the budget?
To be honest, we have even more flexibility. So when we requested budget from TSC, we said it's $24,000 budget for marketing for the whole year. But we did not define if it's a full-time job, Monday, Friday. We did not specify if it's we didn't provide specifics because we didn't know the specifics and we didn't know the market, as we still don't fully understand it. So it might be even that we get an excellent candidate, but the candidate will negotiate, okay, for this amount of money, I can only do 4 days a week or 3 days a week. And I think it's all about even maybe it's really actually enough. Maybe if someone is experienced, handles social media easily with scheduling, etc., and then can innovate with other spaces. Maybe it's even really some senior person that will do job 3 days, like a half time for the same budget. As long as we get results and we actually get someone that is still focused on it, but just for the half time, I think it's still worth to hire if we get a good candidate.
It's definitely a good thing that could be opened clearly in, the job description. Actually, I have just one question, because indeed I see 24,000 as budget, but that doesn't mean 24,000 that ends in the person's pockets. There's always taxes and all of that, right?
Yeah, that's brute. Yeah, that's what we have in the account.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that also needs to be very clear then, because definitely depending on the countries, again, I have no idea how it works on most countries in the world, but yeah, it's going to be less than that at the end for the person.
Yeah. Okay, so can I write action point that we try to do a research somehow on our own with different communities, like ping people, if they know someone who they can recommend? Because
I think I will also check with Chaos Africa. Yeah, I will check with other open source communities and see.
Yeah. Okay, so I write down. So Christoph, you're checking with Symfony community.
Yeah, I can even, send, as soon as we have a job description that we think we can publish, I can push it to the Symfony Slack community. And on LinkedIn and everywhere, for me it's
Yeah. But first let's try this manual approach where we reach people that might know people. That's what I
Yes. Okay, yes, I can do that.
Yeah. And I actually, just during the conversation, I realized that I am in a mailing list of Open Source Foundation, where we have people from Linux Foundation, Apache Foundation. We sometimes drop to each other questions for best practices. And I think that it's not a problem for me to drop them an email, if they have someone in their community that they feel like they can recommend.
I can definitely ask within the Open API community too.
Okay. Okay. So I guess we have it covered. Do we need any updates to the current description to make it clear, more or less, that we? Yeah. Tuli, you wanted to say something?
Oh no, I'm saying we do. That was something that I was wanted to say. Do we need to update the current job description or?
For sure, clarify that we are not locked to Async API
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and that we want to basically try to find out with the current description if there are already people somewhere in the communities. But basically somehow try to clarify to make it clear what we discussed now, that it's not decided if it's a full-time job, part-time job, that it's all negotiable. Like what else? Like even this working group leadership, that it's maybe we should have must have and optional or whatever. I think that in some job descriptions you have this like
Yes.
must
Okay.
have, you have to be a human, but other than that, it's everything is optional.
Right. So okay. So I should add that we are not locked to Async API. Then we haven't decided if it's full time or part time.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. I think maybe we should also post it on general channel on Slack as well, just to remind people that this topic is ongoing. Maybe people might have missed it.
Yeah. And you mentioned it in the newsletter and in the blog, right?
Yes, I mentioned it on the blog. So newsletter is coming out next week. So yeah, I will definitely
okay.
do that as well.
Okay.
Mhm.
Then let's do it. And next meeting, the same time in 2 weeks, and then we see.
Maya is saying that somebody should let her in on Zoom. I don't know. Hi, Maya. I don't see you on Zoom here.
Oh, she's in the waiting room. Okay, perfect.
Oh, is she the waiting room?
No,
Oh,
maybe she tried later to join.
okay. Ah.
Okay.
Hi, Maya.
Hey, Maya.
Mhm.
So
Hello. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm in now.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the next topic is the marketing working group. So we need to, because we already meet, we regularly, we want to drive it forward. So let's finalize the working group.
Okay.
And my initial question is somehow related to what I said, Christoph, at the beginning, like that you're somehow from the other side, that what we think about marketing. Do we have to, especially from your experience with marketing, because again, like my view on community marketing is that for me, the most important is that the marketing that we do is the marketing for the community to promote whatever we do in the community. So let's say we released in last few months, we released a series of really good introduction tutorials about Kafka and about WebSocket, but we just released them, merged pull requests. That's it. But I think it would be really nice if we have someone who picks that up and then like really nicely promotes, hey, like if you were thinking about Async API and Kafka, that's the set of basic recommendations how you should do schema sharing, blah, 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 blah. But we don't have it. So that's what I'm always thinking about this marketing, that it's for me, the critical is to promote whatever community is delivering to the outside world. But I am also aware that that's not enough if it comes to marketing. So what's your view on it, really?
As a sponsor, you mean?
Yeah.
So it's actually rather complex topic to tackle when you're a sponsor of an open source community, because there is two sides of the coin. There is the side where you can truly want to simply, support an open source community because you believe in it, and it makes sense with the business that you have and your values and a whole set of, you know, criteria, so that you decide, okay, I'm gonna donate some money. Now, being a little more, you know, capitalistic about the topic, at some point we're a business, and of course we're hoping that whatever we do in terms of effort or money that we invest, that we can at some point have fallout, positive fallout on that. So meaning it would result in having more visits to our sites or more brand awareness in general, so that people can get interested in what we do too. So that, you know, what I've done a lot in the past 10 years that makes this very concrete is conferences, because when you do conferences, there's a need for a lot of money, so that, you know, you book the events, that you have the catering, that you have all of the logistics around it, and potentially that you pay for, you know, the speakers' travel and hosting and so on. So then having sponsors of the conference who pay so that they have a boost, then, you know, the relationship is then all of a sudden extremely clear. They contribute to the costs of the conference, and at the same time, it's very clear that they have a spot in there so that they can perform their business and marketing activities for their own profit. Online, if we skip the conference part, you know, any activities that are online is probably more complicated, because you don't want, either as a sponsor, to be annoying to the community, right? We are not here to just push what we do and try to get people to purchase what we have to offer. It's not how it works. It cannot be how it works in an open source community. What I've tried to work on a lot as a sponsor in the past years is to see indeed how we can intelligently contribute to whatever efforts happen in a community, and that, of course, because we do it as a company, and we get that, you know, positive feedback from the community who's going to be interested in our product. So I think that's probably one of the key topics, is to identify which initiatives could benefit from the involvement of a sponsor without necessarily having that to be actual contributions in terms of, you know, software development or things like this. There is one such initiative that I've mentioned in the past, and we haven't unfortunately yet been able to push that forward, but it's still in our mind. That is building that async API cheat sheet. I believe it's with Maya actually that I have discussed it. Just quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, you know, those initiatives, they are hard to find, but this is what I would be looking for as a sponsor, because it brings something to the community straight up, and as the sponsor has a major contribution to it, they can claim that contribution and get that brand awareness and potential traffic to their sites in return. That's one of the key things. Now, overall, if I have to you know, look back at what worked and what did not work, even though a page on the open source website, the open source project's website, a page listing sponsors is, you know, somewhat natural and something that everybody expects, and it's somewhat good because it, you know, it should be there. It's the kind of thing that actually doesn't bring any sort of traffic, right? It's just having a list of logos. Nobody's actually going to want to click on it because it's just a logo. It doesn't say anything about it. And very rarely you will have somebody with an intent to find a tool who's actually actively going to go to the sponsor page and look for those sponsors and think, oh, well, this is an interesting tool. So without being too commercial, I think it would be interesting to look for ideas of how to put some of the sponsors who want to, and who would probably then pay the right sponsorship fee for that, how to put them in a spotlight so that they can tell enough about what they're doing to get people interested in what they're doing. So somewhat, going beyond that simple list of logos on a /sponsor page. That possibly could be one thing, and then it's also very clear to the entire community that this part is within a more commercial effort. It's not like pure open source parts. Sorry, I'm diverging a little.
But you make it pretty clear, like that's why we need different groups in this group, like so that we don't focus just on one thing, like promoting whatever community does, but we actually do and it's not a problem that you're here and you're clearly represent a sponsor, because for me it's much like me as a person that now goes to sponsors, tries to attract sponsors, renew sponsorship, etc. For me, even with the current setup we have for the sponsorship, it's not always working. Like some companies say, like, there's nothing for me into it. So one of my secret plans for actually the working group and having us all together here regularly is that I learn from you and other sponsors, basically, what do you want? Because we can, as long as we keep the balance of not giving power to one sponsor, we let's say we enable something for you, then, and it makes sense and it's useful for the community, we'll just have to make sure that all the sponsors have access to it. But then we can have a sponsorship tier, like this real relationship between the community and sponsors that actually is beneficial for sponsors, brings more sponsors and keeps the current sponsors. So that's like what we should, as Async API community, also go forward to, not just say like, give me your money, because it's your investment. Like, okay, investment, but still, not it's every single sponsor have different goals. There are some sponsors that they, for example, don't care about marketing. They care about just like making sure that this initiative is invested because we invested into it. So we know it's still there and it's completely fine. But some expect some marketing, some traffic. So let's see how we can enable it. So that's completely valid points, and that's what we should try to do. As long as we just make sure it's still vendor neutral, it's clear and transparent, then that's perfect.
So you're totally right, and indeed, it's going to depend on the type of company. I'm mainly working in startup companies, so of course I'm always trying to find new ways to drive some growth for our business. So therefore, I have this bias. Please, take that as granted. I have this bias. Now, again, still, what's important is that I understand also the needs that open source communities have, and I try to find those moments where we can benefit to each other, and that's where it's probably interesting to wonder what are, if you want to talk to a company who is looking for growth, what are the growth channels? How do they grow? And how can you potentially collaborate on those growth channels so that mutually, the company and the community get something out of it? Let me give you one example. Right now, there's one thing that we're working on a lot, and that ties directly to what you mentioned just before, which is tutorials and guides. we are building right now a site with a lot of guides that we hope will help our users better adopt API specifications at large and best practices in API design as well. So we're hiring people, or we're having open source contributions from people directly so that we get those guys on our sites. Right now, I have a whole section with open API guides. A lot of them have been written by Phil Sturgeon, if you ever heard the name. And on the async API section of that site, I have only 2 articles. I don't know exactly how to make that happen, but if, yeah, sorry, I have a MacBook, so you know I can do it like this, and all of a sudden balloons and stuff. All right, so yeah, I'd be super interested to have more async API guides on my site, whatever the way we can figure out. And at the end of the day, it benefits me as a business because more people are going to come to my site with SEO, with the fact that we have interesting content and so on. And in any case, we're talking right about the async API specification. So it's direct marketing for async API, obviously. So yeah, the content sync is something that is so important for many businesses. There's so many companies, you know, building marketing strategies and growth strategies around content. And it has to be quality content, you know. But if you give that opportunity for those sponsors to get some of that quality content on their sites, it's again benefits for async API and for a sponsor.
Yeah, it actually makes sense because it's something that I had an idea of, like, for instance, right? There's articles, like for instance, the BUMP is SH publishes an article about async API integrating. Sometimes I usually find it very late. Like I usually come across it very late. So instead, like if we have a working group and say, hey, we published this article or a tutorial about async API integrating with this, it's very easy for us to promote. It's beneficial for the sponsors, beneficial for us. So it's like a two-way street. Like we can get, like, if maybe you are working on a feature that includes async API, V3, some of these things I usually find it very late, of which if we have a working group is very beneficial for us. I mean, like even the guides, maybe we can put an article on the sponsor's website or collaborate with sponsors as well, of which it is like something that we need. So definitely, actually, what Christoph is saying makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, in the end, we're lucky as async API specification and a community that we don't have to go into this SEO battle. If we don't, it doesn't matter if some knowledge is found on asyncAPI.com or PumpSH, because in the end, if somebody finds it useful on PumpSH, they have to end up with async API community anyway.
Exactly.
It's just about details, how we can, again, like, in my opinion, we can do whatever, as long as we then later formalize it in the way that any sponsor can do it. Also, so that's transparent. We're not favoring a single sponsor, and we enable others to do it. So it's all about licensing the content, etc.
Yes, the content licensing is always going to be a question and something that we should be very careful about. Now, what I'm going to say is probably not going to be in my favor right now because I'm not sure if I don't believe we're, you know, the major sponsor of async API at this point, but it could be that in a sponsorship package, you could say, well, if you're at that level, we're going to have somebody from the community who's going to write up to 3 articles that you can host on your site. That would still be around async API, right? But they're your content
Yeah.
on your sites. That could be one, you know, again, writing good quality content is super hard. And if the community has that expertise and the sponsors can benefit from it, they're going to be happy about it, and it's going to benefit the async API community anyway.
With the sponsorship packs, of course, I would have to consult always with Linux Foundation, but I think it's pretty normal that we can even enable on some package level that you can have, let's say, once a quarter, a given sponsor can have a paragraph in the newsletter, which is marked as sponsored, but still, that's something good in return that we can offer. And then again, it's beneficial for you to join the working group to figure out how to best do it. Like for you, it's beneficial that if you pay for it and you're in the newsletter, how to make newsletter much more visible in the community, how to promote it better. So it's like
Yes,
a really nicely driven machine that's beneficial for all, and that's the goal.
so it's indeed something that I have seen quite a lot, and therefore I know it can work and I know it can fail. Email marketing is risky, especially today, and since quite some years now, actually, because there's just too many emails. And because as soon as an email is going to look too markety, then people are not going to open it, and very few who open it will actually click on the links. So then there is probably a lot of thoughts to be given to, you know, how to make that really powerful for sponsors. But yes, it's you know, it's a whole topic. So there is something that can be done there, but it should be done carefully so that indeed the sponsors, you know, can get what they were looking for out of it, and that they're happy about it, and that they sponsor again next year, and that they can also tell other sponsors, yeah, it's something that, you know, helped us a lot. Which leads me, by the way, to something that I have seen in some communities, but not all of them, which is about the community, so probably the working group here, to reach out to each of the sponsors on a regular basis to figure out, are they getting what they were expecting, or at least hoping. Having that feedback loop is so important, because it's what will have you, you know, renew the sponsors or have sponsors become ambassadors so that you get more sponsors. And yes, I have seen some communities who are very, very good at that, and some communities who just, you know, they get the sponsors and thank you for the money. You know, yeah, we delivered that tweet and we added that insert in the newsletter, but that's it. We don't even tell you how many people clicked on it, and you know. So I'm pushing, but you know, there is two ends of the spectrum, and there's probably one end where we want to be closer than the other.
So like honestly, you're not pushing. So that's my duty at the moment. And that's why, for example, I know that one of my goals for this year is to completely renew the package, the sponsorship package, because I know that for like, especially from discussions with potential sponsors, I know that, for example, the platinum that we offer, we have, for example, in the platinum sponsorship tier, 2 hours of support every month. And it was never a deal breaker for sponsors. For sponsors, it's like, okay, like, especially it's usually big corporations and marketing has no connection with the product, and they don't even let them know that they have the package. So nobody really does this support hours, which is good deal for us. But come on, like, let's look into the future. It's not good deal for us, because then it's not a deal breaker. Then we should find a good deal breaker. So there are, that's definitely on my agenda, and I'm happy to actually not do it alone, but as a part of the working group. That's if it's sponsors driven, it's perfect, because that's what I, as a director getting money, I want to have the package that is like, I don't even have to explain. I just show to someone and people say like, hey, I want it. It's actually very beneficial. But there are many different topics in this area, especially how also to make sponsorship fair for all the parties, because there are big corporations that can afford Platinum, but for startups like yours, Platinum it's actually it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and you really have to have a good reason to pick it up. So we either do a really good sponsorship package, or we actually have to think about what OpenAPI did with this approach that it depends on the size of the company. There's a different level of the payment for a given tier. Because if you're a big corporation, you can afford Platinum for $24,000, but maybe if you're a startup below 100 people, we should apply different rules. So that's, I don't even want to open the Pandora box to discussion about it, but that's something to look at, because I, for example, see it also in the whole CNCF Foundation, which just makes me aware and think like maybe that's something that we should also look into.
Yeah, it's also a very complex topic, because even as a startup company, you have more or less stakes into the community and what you can expect out of it. So maybe some startup companies would be willing to spend a lot more than others. So yeah, there's many dimensions to it. It's not not an easy topic anyway. So yeah.
Okay, so because we're running out of time. So we have action items for the hiring. And in case of the working group, let me just, especially in the meetings, we're not writing anything in the stone. So I'll work with Maya to update the current proposal for the working group. And I'll try to somehow in a paragraph describe the scope and suggest, and let's see your opinions in pull request or in 2 weeks. Basically, I'll try to see if we can accommodate both, that it's not just about marketing what community does, but also marketing that basically allows us to bring more sponsors in the future. That would be the goal. Like the marketing that works and sponsors see that actually it makes sense to join. So yeah, I'll try to somehow describe it, which will be difficult. Maybe ChatGPT will help.
Good. All right. Well, I'm gonna try to be there at the next call too. But working asynchronously is also perfectly fine. So if it's over GitHub, email, or Slack, anything, I won't necessarily answer under a minute, but I will answer anyway.
Okay, perfect. Very good. Okay, so let's like Christoph, thanks first of all for showing up. It was, I'm not sure what you think, Tuli, but I think it was really, really good discussion.
Well, thanks a lot for hosting me, actually. Again, I hope that anything I say, can just be a contribution, that it can be helpful. And please always take it with a grain of salt every time, because yes, I have my own bias. So it's with all of the limitations around it.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so I'll wrap up the notes after the meeting, share them in Slack, and yeah, let you know when I schedule another meeting. Let's keep chatting.
All right, thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.